Part 38. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 371. I cannot be reconciled. Su Yang, you will not die well. Grandma will definitely avenge me. Just wait to die. After saying his last words, Prince Ping Long Suxing completely disappeared from this world. And Su Yang, in the Jinluan Hall, trampled to death the current prince in front of all the civil and military officials and the emperor. This behavior instantly caused an uproar. The eyes of the civil and military officials looking at Su Yang were full of fear, and they all lowered their heads, not daring to say anything. Snort. Su Yang kicked away the body of Prince Ping and said coldly, "Don't worry, I will return to Jiangbei tonight. Your grandmother and that Iron Fist sect who advocates immortality are all people I will kill." Arrogant. Arrogant. Su Yang interpreted these two words vividly, but no one could do anything to him. Prince Ping, Long Suxing, was good at raising government soldiers and intended to rebel. He died unjustly. Please investigate clearly, the emperor. At this moment, Lu Zhonglian, the head of the civil service, stood up and said this. Not only did he give the emperor a chance to step down, but he also absolved Su Yang. Long Xingtian glanced at Lu Zhonglian with satisfaction, then nodded and said, "The Prime Minister is right. Prince Ping is so courageous. He dares to raise so many Earth sect masters in the palace, and even Tian sect masters zone. The ambition of the wolf is obvious." Having said this, Long Xingtian's eyes fell on Su Yang, and continued, "Su Yang has a keen eye, and he saw through Prince Ping's ambition. He pretended to test it, but he didn't expect that he really pushed Prince Ping and exposed his flaws. After that, I pacified the palace for me and killed the traitor Prince Ping. His contribution is indispensable." Long Xingtian finally said, "In addition, I have said before that if Su Yang returns, I will appoint him as the commander-in-chief of the three armies. At this time, it is an auspicious day. I have decided to make Su Yang commander-in-chief and take charge of the three armies. I second the proposal. I second the proposal. I second the proposal." Lu Zhonglian, the head of the civil service, was the first to respond, followed by all civil and military officials who seconded the proposal in unison. Now that Prince Ping is dead, the officials who originally relied on him naturally no longer dare to rebel. Sushui. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Su Yang smiled and did not refuse the canonization. He stood and accepted the imperial edict. His grandfather is Sushui, and his father is Sushui. It's his turn, and he can't lose the inheritance no matter what. After receiving the identity of Sushui, it is okay to go home and make grandpa and dad happy. Seeing that Su Yang had given him this face, Long Xingtian felt a little better, and then ordered, "You all should step aside. Don't reveal a word about today's events. Everything will be subject to the announcement issued by the imperial court. Anyone who dares to spread the word will be killed without mercy." According to the order, all civil and military officials responded in unison, and then under the leadership of Lu Zhonglian, they exited the Jinluan Hall one after another. "Wei Zhong, you can go down too." Long Xingtian glanced at Wei Zhong next to him and said calmly, "I want to talk to Xiao Sushui alone." Twitter. Wei Zhong responded respectfully and left immediately, feeling grateful secretly at the same time. "Fortunately, I only showed a little bit of dissatisfaction in Zhangjia manner before and did not lose my temper. Otherwise, I am afraid that I would also be a corpse now. Soon." Su Yang and Long Xingtian were the only two people left in Jinluan Hall. Long Xingtian stood up, walked down from the dragon chair, stood next to Su Yang, and looked Su Yang up and down. In the end, Long Xingtian nodded and said, "Yes, he is a talented person, but he is too arrogant." Su Yang smiled softly and said, "Only those with strength are worthy of being arrogant. My lord, Do you think I am not worthy? Ha ha. Long Xingtian laughed heartily, and then said, Su Yang, I won't joke with you, let's get straight to the point. I have long been aware of Prince Ping's intention to rebel. Do you know why I didn't punish him? Long Xingtian asked. Su Yang frowned and said, because of his grandmother. Long Xingtian said with a solemn expression, Prince Ping's maternal grandmother came from Sandongqiao, which is a powerful first-class section. His maternal grandmother, Gu Hongyu, set foot in the half-step divine sect in her early years. It is said that she is infinitely close to the realm of the divine section. Long Xingtian smiled and asked, Su Yang, now, do you regret killing Prince Ping? No. Su Yang said truthfully, I said in front of my sister that if I don't twist off his head, my surname will not be Su. So, give me another chance and I will still kill Prince Ping. Good. Long Xingtian smiled, then looked at Su Yang and asked again, Su Yang, I have another question. Can you really kill Tuaba Bodhisattva and Kuzu Taoist? These two half-step divine sects, you really can't fear. In response, Su Yang just smiled lightly and did not answer directly. Instead, he said, Your Majesty, if there is nothing else, I will leave first. After saying that, Su Yang turned around and left. Stop. Long Xingtian said calmly, I am the Emperor, and you are my commander. Are you so casual in front of me? Su Yang kept walking without any response. Okay, Su Yang, you win, I don't need to bind you with rules, but you have to answer my last question. Long Xingtian compromised. Su Yang stopped and said calmly, What's your question? Just ask it. You should have met National Blade Instructor Xiao. She is my senior sister. When she heard that you were in danger, she traveled thousands of miles to save you. Long Xingtian looked at Su Yang's back and asked, Now, do you know where she is? Why can't I contact her? Travel thousands of miles. Just to save yourself? When Su Yang heard this, his expression suddenly became complicated, and he couldn't help but think of Xiao's voice and smile. Little guy, you owe me a cup of milk tea. Little guy, you haven't bought me cosmetics yet, I can't let you die. Little guy, follow sister. After a while, Su Yang ended his recollection, took a deep breath and said, She is very good. You don't have to worry. She should be back after a while. After saying that, Su Yang strode out of Jinluan Palace. Watching Su Yang's figure disappear, Long Xingtian's face was filled with astonishment. What does it mean to be very good? Also, you guys can't tell clearly how long it will take. Long Xingtian complained for a few words, then his eyes fell on Prince Ping's body and murmured. Su Yang, didn't you say in front of your sister that you have to twist off his head, otherwise your surname will not be Su, and you haven't done it now? That's all, in order for you to continue to have the surname Su, I will commit fratricide once. I have sacrificed so much for you. After the words fell, Long Xingtian narrowed his eyes slightly and strode towards the body of Prince Ping. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 372. Prince Ping is dead. The matter between Wang Fugui and Lu Shushan was also resolved, and they met their sister at the same time. Nowadays, there is no point in staying in Kyoto anymore. As for the next thing, let the Emperor Long Xingtian deal with the aftermath. Although Su Yang provoked the majesty of the royal family in the Jinluan Hall, he also solved a hidden danger for Long Xingtian. Since Long Xingtian was willing to appoint Su Yang as commander, it showed that he selectively ignored Su Yang's previous disrespect and recognized Su Yang. Of course, this was mainly because Su Yang calmed Long Xingtian through soul transmission. Otherwise, given the emperor's character, he would definitely not let Su Yang leave. He couldn't figure out Su Yang, so after careful consideration, he chose to compromise with Su Yang. After leaving the Jinluan Hall, Su Yang showed how close he was to the world and soon arrived at Prince Ping's mansion. He came and went in a hurry, and not too long passed. At this time, Su Jingguo and the Blood Two members were still standing outside the door. Among them, Su Jingguo was communicating with Xiaoting, her eyes full of shock. She naturally recognizes Xiaoting, but in her impression, Xiaoting is not an ancient warrior in the Huajin realm, so why has he become so powerful now? Also, most of the other 49 people here, Su Jingguo, had met in the Su family. They were ordinary people and had not even set foot in Huajin. But now, although these people have no true energy fluctuations on their bodies, the power they exude is no worse than themselves, or even exceeds them. What happened? Why do the Su family's secret guards have such strength? Miss, please don't ask us. The young master has explained these things. Xiaoting looked troubled, and suddenly saw Su Yang. He breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "The young master is here. Miss, if you really want to know, just ask the young master." "Brother, you are here." Su Jingguo's eyes fell on Su Yang, and she immediately said with relief, "Do you know, you said you were going to the Jinluan Palace, and you worried me to death, but fortunately, you didn't actually go to the Jinluan Palace." Su Yang's time away was too short, at most it only took time to smoke a cigarette. That's why Su Jingguo thinks so. "Sister, I have come back from Jinluan Palace." Su Yang smiled. "What?" Su Jingguo was shocked, then walked into Su Yang and asked with concern, "Are you injured? There are many masters in the palace. It is simply unrealistic for you to go there and kill Prince Ping. Prince Ping has the intention to rebel. We can definitely expose him and let the emperor. No need to bother." Su Yang smiled softly and said, "Prince Ping died 2 minutes ago. I took his life in front of all the civil and military officials and the emperor." Seeing Su Yang's serious look and not joking, Su Jingguo was shocked and couldn't help but ask, "What's the attitude of the emperor?" "Haha, what kind of attitude can you have? He is very kind to me and even makes me sushui. Originally I didn't want to agree, but after thinking about it, my dad and grandpa both became sushui, so I couldn't lose my place." Su Yang smiled and said, "Besides, there are so many unspoken rules now. Sister, you are so beautiful. What if you are subject to unspoken rules again? I am your boss now, and no one will dare to make unspoken rules for you in the future." Loquacious. Su Jingguo rolled her eyes at Su Yang, then pinched Su Yang's face and said with a smile, "Sister, I have many things to ask you now. You must tell me honestly. Be gentle, sister." Su Yang took a breath of cold air, then looked at Xuetu and ordered, "Xiaoting, take the Xuetu members to the Zhang family manor. I will be there later. In addition, you should have Lu Hui's contact information and inform him to prepare the helicopter. We will return to Jiangbei tonight. There are still things waiting for me to deal with there." "Yes. Become sworn friends with Grandpa?" "Ahem." After a pause for a few seconds, Su Jingguo asked curiously, "Brother, do Grandpa and Su Shenbing know your strength? I want to practice quietly alone, and when the day my strength is revealed, I will amaze everyone. As the master of the Medicine King Palace, I certainly cannot sit idly by while watching the Medicine King Palace being exploited." "Stop talking, you've hidden your strength. Even if you don't have me, nothing will happen to you." After they left, Su Yang looked at Su Jingguo and smiled softly, "Sister, if you want to know anything, just ask, and I'll tell you." Su Jingguo first praised, then asked, "You said before that you led people to solve the crisis in southern Xinjiang. Is it true or false?" Su Yang paused. It was a bit unscientific to suddenly become so powerful. In order not to make my sister suspicious, he said, "Sister, you are right. In fact, I have been hiding my strength." Su Jingguo released Su Yang's hand and said, "If you don't want to talk about your strength, I won't ask any more questions, but I want to know, when did you become stronger? Have you been pretending before, dandy? It's really you." Su Jingguo was extremely surprised, but when she thought about other things her younger brother had done, she was no longer surprised. Instead, she smiled happily and said, "I had a feeling at that time that Su Xiantian was very familiar." Su Yang smiled bitterly, and then said, "You probably don't know. I will tell them when I get back. But, sister, my dad and grandpa may beat me then, so you must protect me." "Sister, you are too outsider. I am your little brother. If I don't save you, who will save you?" Su Yang smiled and said, "Besides, if you hadn't protected me over the years, I would have suffered a lot more. Now, well, he is indeed my little brother. He has endured it for many years. This kind of character makes my sister admire him. Haha, little brother, thank you for the matter in Dongjiang. It was you who saved my sister's life." Su Jingguo patted Su Yang's shoulder gratefully. "What do you mean? This is a good thing. Why did Grandpa and Su Shenbing hit you?" Su Jingguo asked curiously. Su Yang coughed twice, and then said, "Because I didn't want to expose my strength some time ago, I disguised myself as Su Xiantian, and in the Jimen black market in Jiangbei, I accidentally became sworn brother." Recalling the past events, Su Jingguo suddenly felt a little embarrassed, but finally laughed it off. "Of course it's true," Su Yang said with a smile, "otherwise, why would the emperor appoint me as the commander-in-chief of the three armies?" This. Xiaoting respectfully accepted the order, and then led the 49 blood slaughter members to leave Prince Ping's mansion. "Sister, did you guess it?" Su Yang smiled bitterly. "The Iron Fist sect advocates immortality, and Prince Ping's maternal grandmother Gu Hongyu is in the north of the Yangtze River and is forcing the Yaoang Palace. Zhang's Hongyu and Zhang Ruomu must be very worried at this time." Giggle. Su Jingguo nodded, then seemed to think of something, and asked another question, "Little brother, is it you who saved me in eastern Xinjiang some time ago, Su Xiantian? There are traces of you in him, but Su Xiantian is so powerful that I don't dare to think in this direction." "Them. Good." When Su Jingguo heard this, she suddenly felt a black thread. "I see. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 373. Now. My other identity, the young Earth sect Su Xiantian, is my grandfather's sworn brother and my father's uncle Xiantian. Su Yang smiled bitterly and said, "Well, ahem, the title is a bit confusing, but that's probably what it means. Brother, you are a bit of a tiger, you can do this kind of thing," Su Jingguo said with a dark face. "I am also forced to have no choice." Su Yang said, "Sister, you don't know that my grandfather held my hand and refused to let me go. He insisted on sworn relationship with me. I refused at first, but my grandfather kept pestering me and wanted to become a sworn brother. I really had no choice but to agree." Su Yang continued, "I thought I could leave after our sworn vows, but I didn't expect that Grandpa called Dad here and wanted to treat me to a drink. When my father saw me, he said Uncle Xiantian in his mouth and Uncle Xiantian in his mouth, which made me feel numb." Su Yang smiled bitterly and said, "Later, my family encountered some troubles, and I became stronger, so I stopped hiding it. But it's been so long, and I still haven't confessed to my dad and grandpa. The main reason is that I'm scared. If they know I am Su Xiantian, they won't beat me to death." Su Yang continued, "Especially Dad." Uncle Xiantian screamed so warmly, he probably ate my heart out. Haha. Originally, Su Jingguo thought Su Yang's approach was a bit inappropriate, but when she heard this, She couldn't help laughing and said, "You deserve it, Su Shenbing. I didn't expect you to call your son uncle today. I'll see your face this time where to put it. Little brother, don't worry. I will go back to Jiangbei with you. With my sister here, Su Shenbing can't even lay a finger on you," Su Jingguo promised. "Well done, I'm so powerful." Su Yang flattered you at first, and then said doubtfully, "Sister, there is a question that has been buried in my heart for a long time. Why do you treat Dad so badly, even calling him by his first name?" Su Yang then asked, "Also, Dad doesn't blame you. On the contrary, he feels very guilty and seems afraid to face you. Did he do anything wrong before?" "Yes." Su Jingguo nodded, her eyes fell on Su Yang, and then said, "Brother, I used to think you were an ordinary person and wanted you to live an ordinary life, so I didn't tell you many things. However, you are different now from before. Your martial arts are unfathomable and you can even kill the masters of Tianzong. It's okay to tell you what happened back then." Su Jingguo fell into memories and continued, "Actually, our Su family is not an ordinary urban family. We come from Kunlun Mountain. Our great-grandfather crushed an era and once ruled the ancient martial arts world." When Su Yang heard this, he said, "Sister, my father told me about this. Later, my great-grandfather disappeared, and all the major sects besieged Kunlun Mountain. Only my grandfather survived, and he established the Jiangbei Su family incognito." "Oh." Su Jingguo looked at Su Yang and asked, "Did Su Shenbing tell you about my mother?" Said. Su Yang nodded and said, "My mother is not dead. The grave in Yongning Cemetery is fake. Now my mother is under house arrest in the place of Zen." "Didn't you say anything else?" Su Jingguo asked. Su Yang shook his head and said, "No." He. Su Jingguo sneered, "It seems that he also knows that he is cowardly, and there are some things that he is ashamed to tell you." "Sister, what's going on?" Su Yang couldn't help but ask. "Little brother." Su Jingguo continued, "Actually, Su Shenbing was fully capable of keeping my mother here back then. Even the master of Mount Tai, even the three top forces in the ancient martial arts world, couldn't stop him. It's a pity that he made a choice for the so-called principle and allowed my mother to be forcibly taken away by the place of Zen. 5 years, 5 whole years, he has ignored my mother, but has he ever thought that my mother is enduring great pain?" Su Jingguo gritted her teeth and said, "And us, losing my mother, how difficult it is to endure these thousands of days and nights." Su Shenbing was poisoned. He originally set foot in Tianzong, but his strength gradually deteriorated. Su Yang was confused and asked, "Sister, are you mistaken?" Su Jingguo nodded, then showed a smile and asked doubtfully, "What little thing, have you prepared a gift for my sister?" "Ang, you shirk your responsibility. Next. If Dad is so strong, how come he has been in danger many times, especially the last 2 times? If he hadn't appeared in time, he would have died long ago. He doesn't consider any of this. He only has principles and rules in his heart. I won't listen, I won't listen. I have observed my father's strength. Currently he only has Huajin. This kind of strength is not considered strong even in the city, let alone in the ancient martial arts world." Seeing this, Su Yang did not ask further questions, but avoided the topic and said with a smile, "Well, sister, let's not talk about these. Let's go, I will take you to meet a little thing, you will definitely like it." "Of. You don't want to be responsible, do you?" Mom is right, there is no good thing in a man, I will never pay attention to you again. I'm sorry, little Momo, I was wrong. Apologize." Suzang, it's all your fault, you bastard, you've made me pregnant, how will I see anyone in the future?" "Really?" Su Yang and Su Jingguo left Prince Ping's mansion together, and not long after, they arrived at the Zhang family manor. Impossible. Even after 5 years, Su Jingguo still gritted her teeth when talking about her father. Su Yang was stunned when he heard the conversation between the two little guys, with surprise written all over his face. The background of the three major forces is overwhelming, and they are no match for Dad. Su Jingguo sneered, but little brother, do you think our Su family really has no trump card? No, I'm responsible. I didn't mean it. Don't be angry. I didn't know it would turn out like this. Haha, you'll know when you get there. Su Yang smiled, and he was naturally referring to Su Zeng. Could it be that Dad is also pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger? What? Let me tell you, the Su family's trump card is ridiculously strong. Su Shenbing is not as simple as it appears. No. Okay, I admit it, I did it. Su Yang continued, as for the level of Mount Tai, he must be the Shen Zone. How can Dad be his opponent? Good. Little Momo, it's not my fault, I just... Su Jingguo thought for a while, and then said, aren't we going back to Jiangbei tonight? When we see Su Shenbing, let him tell you clearly in person. Then you will know how heartless he is. As soon as he entered the manor, Su Yang heard the conversation between Su Zing and Mo Yuyan. Dad, you actually have such strength. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 374. Got a big belly? Don't want to take responsibility yet? Su Zing actually did something worse than a beast. This damn thing, if you don't learn the good ones, you will learn the bad ones. At a young age. Wait a moment. Su Zing is so small and his hair is not even long, so he doesn't have this ability. They were just 2 4-year-olds, nothing like this would ever happen. Su Yang had already rolled up his sleeves, planning to rush in and beat Su Zing violently, but when he thought of this, he calmed down. With strong curiosity, he came to the courtyard, followed by Su Jingguo. I saw a pretty little girl, sitting on the flower bed, clutching her belly, with a sad face. It was the little Lolita who ate candied haws earlier, Mo Yuyan. Su Zing was standing nearby with a smile on her face, trying her best to please the little Lolita. At this moment, Su Zing made a face and said, Lolialu, little Momo, look at me, I'm not scary. Puff. Mo Yuyan laughed out loud, Su Zing, you seem to be a fool. Little Momo, you smiled, he, as long as you are happy, I would rather be a fool. Su Zing approached Mo Yuyan and said with a flattering smile, just forgive me. I promise that I will never buy you hamburgers again to keep your belly small. Okay, I forgive you. Mo Yuyan smiled generously. Hamburger. Su Yang showed a wry smile, and after working on it for a long time, it turned out that this was what happened. Are today's children talking so scary? Dad. At this time, Su Zing saw Su Yang, took Mo Yuyan's hand, walked to Su Yang, and said proudly, Dad, let me introduce to you, her name is Mo Yuyan, and she will be your son from now on, wife-in-law. My little Momo doesn't have high requirements. Just give her a few billion as a bride price. For the other betrothal gifts, the elixirs in your ring, I can give you dozens of bottles, I won't be too little. Su Zing looked around and then said, as for the wedding room, let's use this manor. Although it is a bit small, I really don't mind it. Boom. After Su Yang heard this, he raised his hand and gave Su Zing a headache. He frowned and said, if I don't hit you for a while, your skin will be itchy again. Hiss. Su Zing covered his head and muttered, it hurts, Dad, can you save some face for me in front of your daughter-in-law? You still want to save face? If you are rude to that little girl again, be careful and I will blow your head off. Su Yang threatened fiercely. Su Zing suddenly panicked and ran to the side, not daring to speak any more. Subsequently, Su Yang's eyes fell on Mo Yuyan, and he smiled softly, little girl, if Suzing bullies you, tell your uncle and he will help you teach him a lesson. Su Yang already knew Mo Yuyan's identity, the child of a servant of the Zhang family. Now, her parents have chosen to stay and continue working, so Mo Yuyan has not left Zhangjia Manor. Uncle. At this moment, Mo Yuyan was not afraid of strangers at all. She met Su Yang's gaze and said with a smile, Suzing didn't bully me. We were playing house. He is the husband and I am the wife. Play house. I see. Su Yang smiled and said, what can you finish your house game? It will take a long time. Mo Yuyan said truthfully. Suzing said that this game can be completed for many, many years. Many years? This brat is showing off his tricks to this little girl, so damn, well done. At such a young age, he is so good at flirting with girls. Okay, he is half as charming as I am. Little brother. At this time, Sujingwo walked over, her eyes fell on Suzing, and she said in surprise, this kid just called you dad, could he be? Su Yang nodded, smiled, and said, sister, his name is Suzing, he is my son. Ha ha. When Sujingwo heard this, she couldn't help laughing and said, you can do it so quietly, you even have a son. No, he looks to be 4 or 5 years old. Why don't I know he exists? Ahem. Su Yang said slightly embarrassed, actually, I only found out about this a few days ago. What do you mean? Sujingwo asked curiously, who is his mother? Zhang Shuer. Su Yang answered truthfully. Zhang Shuer. Sujingwo suddenly realized, the surname is Zhang, is the young lady from the Zhang family 5 years ago. You made a big deal when you were drunk. Sister, ahem. Su Yang tugged at Sujingwo's clothes and whispered, save some face for me in front of the child. Okay. Sujingwo smiled softly, then knelt down and rubbed Suzing's head lovingly, and said with a smile, little guy, do you know who I am? I'm not stupid, you are my aunt. Suzing immediately turned on the sweet mode, and his mouth looked like it was covered with honey, and, you are so beautiful as a fairy. You are not my father's biological child, are you? Sujingwo's expression obviously paused, and then she asked, how did you know? It's very simple. Although dad is not ugly, his appearance is just average. I can only say he is above average. Suzing continued, but aunt, you are so beautiful that you can conquer the whole country. You are beautiful and fragrant. You are like a fish and a wild goose, and you are shy when the moon is closed. You and your father are definitely not biological. Born from the same mother, it is impossible for you to be so big difference. Hearing this, Sujingwo breathed a sigh of relief, rubbed Suzing's head, and said with a smile, haha, little guy, that's right, you have a future, and you are much better than your father. Fuck. Su Yang's face suddenly darkened and he muttered, Suzing, who do you think is average looking? With that said, Su Yang came over, pinched Suzing's face, and prepared to beat it. It hurts, it hurts. Suzing begged for help, auntie, it hurts me so much, please help me, please help me. Pretend, if you continue to pretend, I'm not trying hard at all. Su Yang sneered and said, also, you may not know that my elder sister loves me the most. Whatever I do wrong, she will be responsible for it. She loves me the most and will never help, hiss. Su Yang was talking when Sujingwo pinched his face and said seriously, let go, don't pinch my eldest nephew. Sister, what are you doing? I am your little brother, your favorite little brother. Why are you pinching me? You're not anymore. Sujingwo smiled and said, the person I love most now is my eldest nephew. Let go quickly, or I will use more force. What the hell? Su Yang was forced to let go of his hand, looked at Sujingwo, and said with a bitter smile, so, Sister, love will disappear, right? Su Jingguo ignored Su Yang, but said gently, niece, does it still hurt? It hurts, Su Suzing cried miserably, Dad often pinches my face. Auntie, you must make the decision for me. Su Yang, please stop pinching her next time. If you let me see it again, don't blame me for being rude, Su Jingguo threatened with a dark face. Su Yang? Depend on. Are you so heartless that you don't even call me little brother? I gave birth to a son, come here to compete with me, what is this? Su Yang smiled bitterly, and then explained, Sister, I am helping him, making his face look more handsome. Isn't that how you used to pinch me when you were a kid? Fuck you, what does being handsome have to do with being handsome? Sister, but that's what you said before. When Su Jingguo heard this, she said seriously, I was lying to you. Su Yang. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 375. Sister, these feelings have been transferred so completely. I gave all the love I had for my younger brother to my eldest nephew, really not even a drop of it. Auntie, my dad has a backpack for me. That backpack is my lifeline. It contains my milk bottle and bear biscuits. At this time, Suzing said pitifully, Auntie, can you beg for mercy and let Dad return the things to me? Su Yang. When Su Jingguo heard this, she immediately glared at Su Yang, why did you even grab the children's things and didn't take out the backpack? What the hell? Su Yang had a dark face, and when he saw Suzing squatting behind his elder sister, laughing happily, he wished he could give his son 2 brains. But with my sister nearby, it was a bit impractical to do anything. There was no other way, so Su Yang had no choice but to take out the backpack from the storage ring and return it to Suzing. Auntie, you are so awesome, my dad listens to you so much, Suzing said flatteringly, carrying a backpack on his back. Hey, I put on all the storage rings. Su Jingguo glanced at Su Yang, and then her eyes fell on Suzing. She smiled softly and said, that's natural. If anything happens in the future, just tell your aunt and she will take care of it for you. Well, my beautiful, gentle, kind and generous aunt, you will be my patron saint from now on. Suzing hugged Su Jingguo's thigh tightly and rubbed her little head flatteringly. After some fun, Su Jingguo took Suzing and Mo Yuyan to play nearby. As for Su Yang, he called Xiaoting, Su Shanju and Zhang Xiaowu. Master, the members of the blood massacre have been assembled and are all standing guard outside the manor. They can leave at any time, at this time, Xiaoting said. Su Yang nodded, then looked at Su Shanju and said calmly, Su Shanju, have you got the 1,000-year-old turtle shell? Replying to the master, I got it. I would like to thank you even more, Your Majesty. Su Shanju responded respectfully, after you left earlier, my subordinates mentioned this matter to the Grand Majesty. The Grand Majesty went directly to the Medicine King Palace and brought all the medicinal materials you need. With that said, Su Shanju handed a package to Su Yang, which contained the Millennium Black Turtle shell. Good. Su Yang put the package into the storage ring, then looked at Zhang Xiaowu, smiled calmly and said, Zhang Xiaowu, please excuse me. You're welcome, Master. You are the Master of Medicine King Palace, and it is my duty to serve you. Zhang Xiaowu responded with cupped fists, and then couldn't help but ask, Palace Master, what was the result of your visit to Prince Ping's mansion this time? Haha, all the masters in the palace were killed by the bloody massacre, as for Prince Ping. Su Yang smiled and said, I went to the Jinluan Hall and wiped it out on top of the hall. This matter is over. The master of the palace has unparalleled means, and his subordinates admire him. Zhang Xiao first complimented, then asked curiously, I heard that in the palace, there is a master who is half a step into the Shenzong realm. He comes from Sandong Qiao and is named Gu Hongyu. His strength is unfathomable. Master, have you seen her? That's not true. Su Yang shook his head, and then said calmly, that Gu Hongyu left Kyoto 2 days ago and went to Jiangbei with Zhang Changsheng. Jiangbei. Zhang Xiao paused, then seemed to think of something, and said with an ugly face, Palace Master, she and Zhang Changsheng went to Jiangbei to force our Medicine King Palace to compromise, right? Good. Su Yang nodded and said, that's true. The situation in Jiangbei is critical now. Zhang Hongyao, alone, must be in a state of distress when facing several half-step divine sections. Zhang Hongyao. When Zhang Xiao heard this, she immediately wondered, Palace Master, what are you talking about? My ancestor is already dead, isn't it? How could? Su Yang met Zhang Xiao's gaze and smiled softly, he is not dead. He just faked his death back then. He is currently in Jiangbei. What? Hearing this, Zhang Xiao's eyes showed strong shock. Okay, Jiangbei is in a special situation, so let's not waste time. Su Yang urged, Xiaoting, I asked you to contact Lu Hui. How is your contact going? Young master, it's done. The large helicopter is parked outside Kyoto, Xiaoting said respectfully. Okay, Su Yang said seriously, get ready to leave and return to Kyoto. Zhang Changsheng and Gu Hongyu must die. Yes. Xiaoting and Su Shanja responded. Palace Master. At this time, Zhang Xiao said, my subordinates want to go to Jiangbei with you. Can. Su Yang nodded lightly and agreed. Next. Su Yang found his elder sister and Su Xing, and then embarked on the journey back to Jiangbei. It is worth mentioning that Su Xing insisted on bringing Mo Yuyan with him. After Su Yang asked Mo Yuyan's parents for their opinions, he took Mo Yuyan's family aboard the helicopter. But Wang Fugui and Lu Shushan did not leave, but stayed in Kyoto, intending to explain the situation to the Lu family and then take Lu Shushan back to Jiangbei. Nowadays, Su Yang's reputation resounded throughout the major families in Kyoto. Even if Wang Fugui and Lu Shushan stayed in Kyoto, they would not be in any danger. Therefore, Su Yang did not force it and asked Wang Fugui to stay and communicate with his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Buzz. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the helicopter slowly took off, cut through the clouds, and soon left Kyoto. The next morning, Su Yang and his party successfully arrived in Jiangbei. Afterwards, Lu Hui flew a helicopter and returned to the Jimen black market. Su Yang took the others to the Su family manor, intending to meet his father and grandfather first, and then resolve the matter at Evian Villa. At this moment, Su family manor, underground secret room. Father, I heard from the servant who delivered the meal that something big happened in Kyoto yesterday. Prince Ping seemed to have been killed, and he was killed in the Jinluan Palace. The emperor was also present. Oh. In addition, it is said that the emperor has also appointed a new commander-in-chief of the three armies, and that person is the one who killed Prince Ping. Do you think it is strange that he will be rewarded for killing Prince Ping in public? Oh. I heard that Prince Ping intended to rebel, and that the new coach was instrumental in putting down the rebellion. By the way, it is said that the coach's surname is Su. Father, by coincidence, he has the same surname as ours. Oh. Father, aren't you curious about who that person is? Not curious. But I'm curious. This servant only knows a little bit about it. I guess all the major TV stations should be talking about what happened at the Golden Palace yesterday. I can probably hear some useful information. Then, divine weapon, what are you going to say? Ahem, Father, what I mean is, can you stop watching talent shows all the time and switch to a serious channel? Can we care about national affairs? No, my father is old and not interested in national affairs. Su Shenbing was lying on the bed, showing a helpless smile. There was nothing he could do about Su Qianqian. At this time, Su Yang and his party returned to the manor. After settling Suzang, Su Yang and his elder sister Su Jingguo walked into the underground secret room. "Father, someone has come in, turn off the TV quickly," Su Shenbing reminded him quickly when he noticed the movement outside. Su Qinqin hurriedly turned off the TV and stared at the ceiling as if nothing had happened. "Dad? Grandfather?" Su Yang smiled and greeted. "Grandfather?" As for Su Jingguo, she only said hello to Su Qinqin. After her eyes fell on Su Shenbing, her expression first showed worry and concern, then she sneered. "Haha, Su Shenbing, I never thought you would end up like this, you deserve it. P.S. I want to give you a tip. There is only one update today. I encountered something and my mind was confused and like a paste. I haven't asked for leave this month. I asked for leave today, but I thought I had to post a chapter. Please forgive me. I will make up for the 2 chapters I owe this month, don't scold me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 376. Jin, Jingguo, you are back. Su Shenbing's eyes fell on Su Jingguo, and he directly ignored Su Jingguo's attitude towards him. A long-lost smile appeared on his face, and his eyes were full of doting. "Shut up." Su Jingguo said coldly, "Su Shenbing, you are not qualified to call me by my name. If I hadn't seen you become disabled, I would have fought with you today to show you my progress during this period," Su Jingguo said with an unkind expression, but she was still worried about Su Shenbing. On the way here, Su Yang had already told Su Jingguo exactly what happened before. Su Jingguo's expression changed when she heard that her father and grandfather's bones were broken. She hurriedly pulled Su Yang to visit her father and grandfather. But in front of Su Shenbing, she hid her concerns. Because Su Jingguo still resented Su Shenbing for letting her mother leave her. At this time, when Su Shenbing saw his daughter hating him so much, the luster in his eyes gradually disappeared, and he felt very depressed. Women Su Qinqin, who was next to him, called Su Jingguo's name. Su Jingguo came over, squatted in front of Su Qinqin's hospital bed, and said softly, "Grandpa, I'm here. Don't blame your father anymore. He had no choice but to do what happened back then." Su Qinqin sighed and said seriously, "Besides, it's been so long, please forgive him." "Impossible." Su Jingguo gritted her teeth and said, "The longer time passes, which means the longer my mother leaves this home, my hatred for him will only increase. I hate him. Why did he act like a coward even though he could have chosen to let my mother stay? Why give up the family happiness of our family together and choose to stick to the so-called rules?" As she said that, Su Jingguo's eyes fell on Su Shenbing, her eyes filled with hatred. "Why?" When Su Qinqin heard this, he sighed and stopped talking, instead thinking about something. "Dad." At this time, Su Yang walked up to Su Shenbing and complained, "You are too unkind. You hide such an important matter from me. Am I still your son? What did I hide from you? Still pretending?" Su Yang looked at Su Shenbing and continued, "Sister has already told me that our Su family is not that simple. 5 years ago, you were fully capable of crushing all directions. Even if the 3 major forces in the ancient martial arts world came out, you not afraid. Dad, tell me what your trump card is and why you never use it." Su Yang said with a smile, "I am the only young master of the Su family. Even if you pass the inheritance from male to female, you should tell me. Otherwise, if you burp one day, won't the heritage of the Su family be lost?" "Little bastard, what are you talking about? Who's going to burp?" Su Shenbing glared at Su Yang angrily, then shook his head and said, "Stop thinking about it, you are not qualified yet. Magic weapon, tell me." Sukyankin said seriously, besides, they will know sooner or later that when you turned 18, I passed on the Su family's heritage to you. Su Shenbing continued, in the ancient martial arts world, everyone practices the ancient martial arts system and uses internal skills and mental methods to develop true energy. Of course, Su Yang had no problem, so he moved to a bench, sat down, and quietly became a melon eater. But your great-grandfather Suwuji is a cultivator, also known as the ancient Qi refiner. Seeing his son and daughter, Su Shenbing nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, not bad, not bad, you two are both good. Su Jingguo snorted coldly, then walked over and stood next to Su Yang. Humph, I want to see what you want to say. Normally, if there is enough spiritual energy, it will take an ordinary cultivator at most 3 to 5 years to successfully build the foundation. Dad, can you stop setting the stage and serve the main course quickly? I'm waiting for you, Su Yang urged. The reason why your great-grandfather has such strength is entirely because of the system he cultivated. Of course, this is not the most important thing. The key is that the lifespan of a cultivator can increase with the increase of strength, even infinitely, reaching immortality. Su Shenbing said with longing, and that realm seems to be just foundation building. It is the second great realm of cultivation. The first great realm is Qi training. Listen to me and tell me. This can resolve the conflict between you and the heroine. And your great-grandfather, by chance, obtained the mysterious cultivation method, and set foot in the foundation building realm. Later, he condensed the golden elixir and became a cultivator in the elixir formation stage. He traveled all over the world and looked down upon the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Now that my father has spoken, and since I have become like this, I no longer have the ability and no need to hold on, I will simply tell you everything today, Su Shenbing said seriously. The heroine became the god of war. Su Yang is a little worse, but he is also an ancient warrior in the realm of strength. The world is so big, there is no place he dares not go. You brat, why are you so anxious? All right. Su Shenbing concluded, this shows how powerful cultivators are. Suddenly, Sukyankin next to him made a decision and said seriously, Su Yang and Jingguo are here today, and they have grown up. It's time to tell them the responsibilities of the Su family. In the place of Zen, between the mountains and the sea, deep in the clouds and mists, the 3 top ancient martial arts forces are like his back garden, and even major holy places abroad have left his footprints. Now that Su Yang is in his early 20s, he must shoulder the responsibilities of the Su family. 3 mountains and 5 mountains, all over the world, everyone respects your great-grandfather Su Wuzi. At this point, Su Shenbing changed his tone and said sternly, however, there are exceptions to everything. Just when your great-grandfather was in his prime, an accident happened, and your great-grandfather's fate also underwent a huge change. Su Shenbing continued, it is said that after 3 to 5 years of cultivation, one can catch up with the lifetime efforts of many ancient warriors. He got a chance and was gifted. He is the world's best master and has conquered an era. Su Shenbing rolled his eyes at Su Yang, then looked at Su Jingguo, and said softly, I told you before about your great-grandfather Su Wuzi. Su Shenbing finally nodded, and then said, Su Yang, woman, come to me. Time flies so fast. In a blink of an eye, you have grown up. The energy cultivated by Qi practitioners is called spiritual energy. Although I have never seen it, it is indeed a power that surpasses true energy. Su Shenbing said, but the Shenzong realm can only be reached by extremely talented ancient warriors, and it also takes 1 or 200 years. In ancient times, those pre-Qin Qi practitioners, any young disciple could be comparable to today's Shenzong. I have only told you part of the Su family's secrets. As for the other part, I didn't plan to tell you. I want to keep this responsibility on myself. Father, but... Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 377. Cultivator. Dan. My elder sister Sujingwa was confused by what Su Shenbing said and listened in confusion. After all, these words exist in legends. In her knowledge, there is only the ancient martial arts world in this world. Such things as cultivation and immortality are too illusory. But Su Yang, as the Xiantian immortal emperor, listened with interest. Unexpectedly, my great-grandfather Su Wuzi succeeded in forming a pill. Earth today. On the one hand, spiritual energy is thin and it is very difficult to practice. On the other hand, Su Yang had long noticed that the laws of heaven on earth had changed, making it very difficult to advance in cultivation. To put it simply, the difficulty of entering the nascent soul stage in the Xiantian immortal realm is similar to the difficulty of successfully building a foundation on the earth. Cultivation is originally about going against heaven. Now that the laws of the earth have changed, it is much more difficult to go against heaven. In this case, the great-grandfather can condense the golden elixir, so he must be a well-deserved genius in cultivation. At the same time, Su Yang received a message that by entering the elixir formation stage, he could be proud of the earth and control everything in the world. Certainly. Su Yang was also very curious as to what the accident his father was talking about was, so he looked at his father, looking forward to what happened next. About the 9th year when your great-grandfather Su Wuzi was condensing the golden elixir, a strange thing suddenly happened north of the Hengjiang River in the Hua Kingdom. Su Shenbing did not give in, and went on to say, more than 100,000 local citizens died overnight, their essence and blood were drained, and they were all turned into mummies. The corpses were pitch black, as if they had been poisoned. In order to avoid panic, the official blocked the information and secretly disposed of the body. However, your great-grandfather Su Wuzi still found out about this matter. Su Shenbing continued, he came to the scene, investigated the situation, and found that there were spiritual energy residues in the blackened corpses, so he immediately took the matter seriously. Your great-grandfather has always believed that he is the only cultivator on the earth today, but the aura remaining in the mummy tells him that there must be other cultivators on the earth. So, your great-grandfather lurked and tried to find out the identity of the cultivator based on clues. After all, he killed hundreds of thousands of people in one move. He is too evil and we must not let him continue to wreak havoc. Su Shenbing said, finally, one night, your great-grandfather met that person. His guess is correct. The other party is indeed a cultivator, but that person is a demon cultivator. According to records in ancient books, there are many factions of cultivators, and they are roughly divided into two types. One is a normal cultivator who relies on spiritual stones and elixirs to advance through cultivation, and the other is a side sect that swallows blood essence and absorbs souls to improve their strength. Su Shenbing continued, for cultivators, there is nothing wrong with cultivating demons. The world of cultivation is too cruel and only the fittest survive. But your great-grandfather cares about the world and couldn't bear to see so many innocent lives die at the hands of the demon cultivator, so he talked to the other party and tried to get the demon cultivator to leave the country of China. He has no control over matters outside the country of China. But the demon cultivator was dismissive and acted very domineeringly, so the negotiation failed. Su Shenbing said seriously, so, your great-grandfather took action and fought with him from the ground to the sky. The fight lasted for several days and nights. In the end, he was seriously injured, but he was defeated. But that demon cultivator is so powerful that his soul is almost immortal. Even if his body is destroyed, he still cannot be killed. So, your great-grandfather used his most precious treasure, the 9-story exquisite tower, to suppress the soul of that demon cultivator, preventing him from reincarnation forever. After solving the demon cultivator, your great-grandfather got some opportunities from the other party, so he broke through the pill formation and stepped into the nascent soul realm. That day, the sky suddenly changed, dark clouds rolled in, and there were bursts of thunder. Su Shenbing said in confusion. After that day, your great-grandfather disappeared, as if he had evaporated from the world. Su Shenbing was lying on the hospital bed, looking at the glazed tower above his head, and continued, back then, your great-grandfather obtained the method of cultivation from the 9-story glazed tower, and grew up to be the strongest in the world, sweeping away all the geniuses. This is your great-great-grandfather's treasure. Because it has 9 floors and the whole body exudes the luster of colored glaze, your great-grandfather called it the 9-story glazed tower. Su Shenbing gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger, and continued, so, they joined forces and entered Kunlun, destroying the Su family in an attempt to find your great-grandfather's cultivation method. At this time, Su Jingguo reacted and snorted coldly, after talking so much, you still haven't revealed the Su family's secrets and the reason why you don't want to use them. The reason why Su Yang was surprised was because of his great-grandfather's level. This is simply unbelievable. Su Shenbing said seriously again, but I am sure that your great-grandfather is still alive and is always on the earth. You also know what happened next. Only your grandfather escaped and retained the blood of the Su family. The small tower has 9 floors, with mysterious patterns on it, and each floor has patterns of mythical beasts. Su Shenbing said firmly, but they are all wrong, because your great-grandfather is still on earth, and he even rescued your grandfather on the battlefield. Su Jingguo was greatly shocked, with a look of horror in her eyes, feeling that what her father said was unbelievable. Women, don't worry, I will show it to you now. In short, people from all the major ancient martial arts sects believe that your great-grandfather has disappeared and will never come back. This object is about 20 centimeters high, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. It looks like a small tower, and the whole body is emitting a dense light. Even in the Xiantian immortal realm, it would take decades to reach the top of the big sects, let alone the earth where the laws of heaven and earth have changed drastically. Grandpa Su Wazi's qualifications once again refreshed Su Yang's understanding. Su Shenbing showed a smile. Su Shenbing continued, at this time, the demonic cultivators who committed crimes in China were suppressed in this glazed tower. According to what Dad said, it took only 9 years for my great-grandfather to break through from the Dan formation stage to the nascent soul stage on Earth. Some people say that your great-grandfather went against the will of heaven and was punished by heaven. Others say that your great-grandfather went to another world just like the ancient Qi refiners. Cultivator. Void Tower. At this moment. Snort. After speaking, Su Shenbing paused. Su Yang's eyes were staring straight at the 9-story glazed tower suspended in mid-air, with a strange brilliance in his eyes, and he was very excited. But she knew that her father would not lie to her, so she had no doubts. Before your great-grandfather entered the nascent soul stage, he handed over the glazed pagoda to your grandfather. My, Void Tower. It's just that since then, he has completely disappeared. More than 100 years have passed and he has never appeared. Kyanki, Daudi, Ilang, Pixiu, a mythical beast, guarding the first floor. Nascent soul. In the ancient martial arts world, many people have witnessed the scene of your great-grandfather's breakthrough, and there are different opinions. 9-story glazed tower? Then his mind moved, and an object appeared in his mind instantly. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 378. Previous life. Su Yang started at a young age, and the reason why he became the Xiantian Immortal Emperor was all because of a valuable treasure he received when he was young. With that precious treasure, Su Yang embarked on the road of being the protagonist of cultivation novels, killing and singing along the way, and finally became the most powerful person in the world and the Immortal Emperor. And that important treasure is the Void Tower. The Void Tower has 9 floors in total. On the first floor, the Daudi is in charge and swallows up everything in the world. The divine skill that Su Yang taught Shifen, the heaven-swallowing spirit beast art, comes from the Daudi beast's soul. The second level is guarded by Kyanki, whose main strength is infinite. He can move mountains and fill seas, and his body is indestructible. The Qingming physical training skills practiced by the members of the Blood Slaughter came from the Kyanki mythical beast. The third floor, the fourth floor, the fifth floor. There is a divine beast sitting on each floor of the Void Tower, just like the 9-story glazed tower. Ever since the 9-story glazed tower appeared, Su Yang had a feeling that this was his Void Tower. This feeling cannot be wrong. How come my Void Tower appears here? I chose to self-destruct and exploded the 9 nether hells, so my soul could be reborn on Earth. Logically speaking, the Void Tower should also be destroyed. Su Yang frowned, and while excited, his eyes were full of doubts. Even if the Void Tower followed me to the Earth, the timeline is wrong. According to what Dad said, the Void Tower was acquired by great-grandfather Su Wuzi more than 100 years ago. And I was reborn on Earth recently, so the time doesn't match up. Su Yang was puzzled. What on earth is going on? Just when Su Yang was confused, Su Shenbing continued, "Women, you are right. As a descendant of the Su family and the current controller of the 9-story glazed tower, I can use this glazed tower." Su Shenbing was a little proud and continued, "If I use this tower, in an instant, I will have the power to dominate the world and become as strong as your great-grandfather. Not to mention the place of Zen, with the addition of the pagoda, I can overthrow the entire ancient martial arts world." After saying that, Su Shenbing smiled bitterly and said, "But, I am not the owner of the 9-story glazed tower. Even your great-grandfather is not the owner of this pagoda. According to what your great-great-grandfather said, the owner of the 9-story glazed pagoda does not belong to this world and is ridiculously powerful. He was only asked to temporarily keep the pagoda. As for the rest, your great-grandfather didn't say much." Su Shenbing continued, "Because I am not the owner of this pagoda, I cannot use it with ease. Your great-grandfather is a bit better. He is a cultivator. He has spiritual energy in his body and can barely activate the 9-story glazed tower." Su Shenbing smiled bitterly and said, "But I am different. I practice the ancient martial arts system. Without spiritual energy, I cannot activate this pagoda at all. But before your great-grandfather left, he left a trace of spiritual energy in the pagoda, so I can use the 9-story glazed pagoda once." As soon as these words came out, Su Jingguo immediately asked, "In that case, why didn't you use this pagoda to keep my mother here 5 years ago? Hey, woman, you don't know something." Hearing this, Su Shenbing sighed, and then explained, "What I can use is the power of the second floor of the 9-story glazed tower, and this floor is where your great-grandfather imprisoned the demon cultivator. Once it is turned on, I will have endless power and push it in all directions. But at the same time, the soul of that demon cultivator will also be released to harm all living beings." Su Shenbing said seriously, "Before your great-grandfather left, he solemnly warned that unless the demon cultivator breaks out of the seal and escapes the pagoda, even if the Su family is destroyed, do not use the power of the 9-story glazed pagoda." "Good." At this time, Su Qinqin, who had been silent, spoke up and added, "My father personally handed this pagoda to me back then and gave these instructions, which I will bear in mind. So, more than 100 years ago, even if the Kunlun Su family suffered a catastrophe, I did not sacrifice the 9-story glazed pagoda." Su Qinqin looked at the pagoda suspended in mid-air and said meaningfully, "This pagoda is like Pandora's box, with opportunities and crises coexisting. I can only watch Kunlun being invaded by hundreds of sects, and I dare not release the demons inside." Su Qinqin continued, "More than 10 years ago, I passed the pagoda to the magic weapon. The same is true for your father. He gave up his family to protect everyone, a woman. Don't blame him." Su Qinqin said earnestly, "On the contrary, you have to understand him. He cannot let a murderous demon run rampant in the world just to stop the place of Zen. Your great-grandfather is somewhere now. If that demon cultivator is born, who in the world can check and balance him? After listening to her grandfather's words, Sujingwo fell silent and looked at Su Shenbing with a complicated expression. At this moment, she suddenly understood Su Shenbing's difficulty. Her father must have been in great pain at that time, right? After hesitating for a moment, Sujingwo's eyes turned red, she opened her mouth, but stopped talking. But in the end, she looked at Su Shenbing and said apologetically, "Father, I'm sorry. Women, you are my daughter, there is no need to apologize. It was indeed my incompetence and failure to protect your mother back then," Su Shenbing said happily. Seeing that his daughter had forgiven him, he was so excited that tears filled his eyes and he was very happy. "No, father, I don't blame you for what happened back then. If it were me, I would definitely make the same choice as you," Sujingwo said seriously. "Haha, okay, good boy." Su Shenbing was lying on the hospital bed and said with a smile, "Squat down quickly and let father take a good look at you." Sujingwo did not refuse and squatted down close to Su Shenbing. The scene was very warm. "Dad." At this time, Su Yang suddenly said, "You are too tolerant. I remember that you almost died several times, but you didn't use this pagoda. Aren't you afraid of death?" "Good guy. We had just been affectionate with our daughter for a while, and my son asked such a sharp question as soon as he opened his mouth. He is indeed a good son." Su Shenbing's face darkened, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Su Yang, you little bastard, what are you doing? Do you want me to die?" "Ahem." Su Yang coughed twice, and then said with a smile, "Dad, I'm just curious." Su Shenbing rolled his eyes at Su Yang, and then said, "I can die, but the pagoda must not be used easily. If I die, this 9-story glazed tower will leave on its own and fly into the body of a person with the blood of the Su family." Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and continued, "If nothing happens, the pagoda will find you and let you take control. So that's it? In other words, if you die suddenly, the pagoda will be mine." Su Yang suddenly realized, then looked at his father, smiled softly and said, "Dad, I want this 9-story glazed tower, can you give it to me now?" "Want it now?" Su Shenbing paused, then gritted his teeth, "Little bastard, you are too impatient. Do you want me to die now?" You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 379. Cough. Su Yang was a little embarrassed. He didn't mean that. He just wanted to get his void tower back. Originally, Su Yang only needed one thought to put the void tower into his mind. However, after all, my father is in charge of the void tower now, and I have to give him face no matter what, so I say hello in advance. Dad, you misunderstood. I just think this little tower is quite fun. Su Yang smiled and said, "You have to pass it on to me sooner or later, so why not give it to me now?" Fart. Su Shenbing said with a dark face, "The 9-story glazed tower is not the Su family's most precious treasure, we are just keeping it for you. When your great-grandfather wanted to reach the nascent soul realm, he was not very sure, so he passed the void tower to your grandfather. When your grandfather went to the battlefield, he was not sure, so he passed it on to me." Su Shenbing muttered, "Now, if I don't break through and go to the battlefield, what will I do if I pass it on to you?" "Well, Dad, look at you, you almost died several times. How dangerous it is." Su Yang said half-jokingly, "It's better to just give it to me. Didn't I say that if I die without passing it on to you, the 9-story glazed tower will fly on its own?" Su Shenbing reacted as he spoke, gritted his teeth and said, "Damn, you kid, you are still cursing me to death." Su Yang waved his hands repeatedly and explained, "No, no, No, I really don't mean that. Humph, if you want a pagoda, just dream about it. Su Shenbing snorted coldly, then said with a solemn expression, little bastard, maybe you don't know. Not everyone can bear the power of the pagoda. Your great-grandfather said at the beginning that only those with the blood of the Su family in their bodies can inspire the power to stay in the pagoda. Su Shenbing continued, furthermore, using the power of the pagoda, although you will gain the strength of a cultivator in the pill formation stage in a short period of time, you will explode and die after the power dissipates. The reason why your great-grandfather kept this hand is to guard against the demonic cultivators in the pagoda. If one day, he really breaks through the seal, the people from the Su family who control the pagoda must activate the power of the pagoda and use their own lives to seal the demon cultivator again. Having said this, Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and asked with a smile, little bastard, do you still want the pagoda now? Risking your life to activate the pagoda? That's someone else. The Void Tower is originally mine, and if I use it, there will never be any damage. Think. Su Yang nodded without hesitation, and then said impassionedly, Dad, how can I be willing to let you die? As your son, I have to share the burden for you, so just let me bear it all. If a demon cultivator is born, I will use the power of the pagoda without hesitation. Even if it means death, I will suppress him to prevent him from causing harm to the world. Fuck. Su Shenbing was suddenly excited and said happily, your boy's awakening is so high. Well, he deserves to be my son. Father. At this time, Su Jingguo, who had been silent, spoke up and said, give me the pagoda, I want to continue the family lineage of the Su family. Women. Su Shenbing paused, and then said meaningfully, to use the pagoda, you must have the blood of the Su family. When Su Jingguo heard this, she immediately gave up the idea and stood aside without saying anything else. Dad. Because his body is covered with black hair and is accompanied by severe pain. What's even weirder is that the spiritual energy around his body cannot be mobilized, and he is in unbearable pain. Why? Su Yang asked doubtfully. Su Qincan continued, your great-grandfather rarely goes out after entering the Dan Dan stage. Su Yang nodded, and then thought of a question, Dad, since my great-grandfather is a cultivator, why didn't he pass down the cultivation method? This is the ultimate fate of a cultivator, so before he fully understands this, he doesn't want people from the Su family to be contaminated. Your great-grandfather's cultivation method did not come from the 9-story glazed pagoda, but was taught by a great man with extraordinary skills more than 100 years ago. Correct. Suddenly, Su Yang thought of something and asked, Grandpa, since the 9-story glazed tower can suppress the unknown, why did Grandpa keep it? Today's earth is full of weirdness and is very unfriendly to cultivators. Su Qincan said, my father told me personally that since he formed the elixir, he felt that he was rejected by the world, and his body also appeared in an unknown state. Su Shenbing smiled bitterly and said, for example, now, I can only put the pagoda out and put it in. It has no practical effect at all like a magician. It's just unclear. Su Yang was focused on the Void Tower. He didn't think much about the conversation between his father and his sister, but asked curiously, you have always been in charge of the Void, 9-story glazed tower, why didn't you become a cultivator? Grandpa can pass the Void Tower and become a master of cultivation. When Pagoda suppressed that demonic cultivator, it was not controlled by your great-grandfather, but Pagoda sensed the crisis and chose to suppress it, Su Shenbing said truthfully. Su Qincan shook his head, and then said, but your great-grandfather has always refused to admit defeat or accept fate. I overheard him saying something before. Su Qincan guessed, this is your great-grandfather's attitude towards the unknown. Perhaps, he does not want to rely on the 9-story glazed tower, but wants to use his own strength to contend with the unknown. Unknown, unknown, what is unknown? I, Suwuji, was born in the age of the end of the Dharma. Am I destined to be like this? Humph, is this the way of heaven? You have tried every possible means to prevent me from embarking on the path of cultivation. I, Suwaji, want to break the unknown and defy heaven. Irksing, let me tell you what it means for man to conquer nature. Your great-grandfather speculates that perhaps it was because of this unknown situation that the pre-Qin Chi practitioners disappeared en masse thousands of years ago. Sukyankin continued, but fortunately, your great-grandfather has a 9-story glazed pagoda. Although it cannot be used, the pagoda will automatically retreat for unknown reasons. Before Su Shenbing could speak, Sukyankin said seriously, I once mentioned to my father that I wanted to become a cultivator, but he rejected me. The unknown thing Grandpa said may really exist. Fortunately, the Void Tower can kill everything. Let me answer this. Unknown, Su Yang frowned slightly. That demon cultivator at the beginning had a rather strange method of cultivation. It should have been just an accident. And your great-grandfather, because of the 9-story glazed tower, it also became an accident. Not sure. Su Shenbing continued, there is a huge amount of spiritual energy stored in this pagoda. It is by absorbing the spiritual energy from the pagoda that your great-grandfather can improve himself. As for Su Yang next to him, he was shocked by the grandpa's courage. Speaking of this, Sukyankin sighed deeply. Right. Sukyankin said sternly, accidents are accidents after all. Normal cultivators, after setting foot on the pill formation, will inevitably suffer unknown consequences, suffer unspeakably, and their aura will be destroyed. I see. After listening to his grandfather's words, Su Yang fell into silence. Hey, after so many years, I don't know if your great-grandfather successfully set foot in Yuanying, and what kind of situation he is in now. Because the earth now is different from before. Although our Su family is in charge of the 9-story glazed pagoda, we cannot really use it. There are 9 floors in the pagoda, and none of them are open to us. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 380. Contend with the sky. Man can conquer heaven. With Grandpa Ether's talent and courage, if he were born in the Xiantian immortal realm, he would definitely be a giant. It's a pity that my great-great-grandfather was born on Earth in the age of the end of the Dharma. He only had talent and passion, but was restricted by the laws of heaven. Perhaps this was his greatest sorrow. Grandfather? After a few seconds of silence, Su Yang couldn't help but ask, my great-great-grandfather stepped into the foundation formation, and his body had an unknown condition. But if other people are cultivating, they can choose not to take this step and always be in the foundation building. Isn't that okay? Is the avoidance unknown? In this way, you can become a cultivator back then. Even if you are only at the foundation building level, you can still crush the ancient martial arts world. Why should our Kunlun Su family be oppressed by those ancient martial arts sects? Su Yang's eyes were filled with tears. Confuse. I also asked your great-grandfather this question, but he said that the way of heaven is unstable. Maybe it won't be long before cultivators in the foundation building realm will also be entangled by the unknown. After Sukyankin explained, he said, your great-grandfather wants to go through the path of cultivation alone. Only in this way can he rest assured that the Su family can embark on the path of cultivation. It's just that when the incident happened suddenly, he must have encountered a major change, so that he can't escape now. At the end of the sentence, Sukyankin looked at Su Yang and said seriously, listen to your father and don't be interested in the 9-story glazed tower. If that demonic cultivator really breaks the seal, and I am still alive, I will be the one who controls the 9-story glazed tower. If I die, your father will complete this matter. You have to lean back, it is not your turn yet, Sukyankin said with a smile. Su Yang was moved in his heart, but the Void Tower originally belonged to him. If the great-grandfather really left a trace of spiritual energy, then he would not suffer any loss by using the Void Tower to suppress the demonic cultivator. Naturally, he would not let his grandfather and father make unnecessary sacrifices. Grandfather! Dad! At this moment, Su Yang looked at Su Qianqian and Su Shenbing, smiled softly, and then made a decision. Your story is over, now it's my turn. Actually, there are some things that have been buried in my heart for a while. I never knew how to talk to you. The main reason is that I am worried that you will not be able to bear it and do something extreme to me again. Su Yang looked at Su Jingguo again, and then said with a smile, now that I'm back, she will protect me. Plus, your bones are all broken and you can't move. I thought about it and decided to tell you. Before coming, Su Yang had already planned to tell his father and grandfather that he was Su Xiantian. You have to confess sooner or later, so why not confess now? Little bastard, what do you want to say? Su Shenbing paused, although he was a little panicked, gritted his teeth and said, you couldn't have made someone else's belly bigger again, right? Su Yang said with a dark face, Dad, in your heart, am I really that unbearable? Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang, and then nodded seriously, yes. Fuck, Su Yang was completely speechless. Okay, Su Yang, just tell me what's going on. Su Qianqian said with a kind face, I know your father is strict with you and beats or scolds you, but don't worry, Grandpa is here. If your sister can't persuade your father, Grandpa will also help. Don't even think about touching you. He must have this ability. Now the bones are broken, hit me and just dream. Su Yang smiled in his heart, then brewed his emotions, and said, Grandpa, Dad, I didn't intentionally hide this from you, and I mainly blame you. Actually, besides being Su Yang, I also have a name, and that is. With that said, Su Yang turned around, with his back to his grandfather and father, secretly used the disguise technique, and then slowly turned around. If you have something to say, say it quickly. If you have something to say, let it go. What are you doing in such a hurry? Su Shenbing urged Su Yang impatiently, but the next moment, he saw a familiar face, and he was immediately filled with respect, and hurriedly said hello, Xian, Uncle Xian Tian. Hearing this, Su Qianqian's face twitched and his expression was very complicated. At this time, Su Jingguo said with a smile, you are confused, aren't you? Uncle Xiantian and virtuous brother, Su Xiantian is Su Yang. Su Yang? Su Yang looked at Su Qianqian again and said with a wry smile, and Grandpa, you educate me. You usually educate people in one way, why don't you talk now? Especially Su Qianqian, whose face was as pale as pig liver and he was gnashing his teeth in anger. I also said at the time that everyone has their own opinions, but Dad, if you don't listen, you will call me uncle if you don't listen. Don't be angry, I was really helpless at that time. At this moment, the two of them understood the meaning of what Su Yang said before. Huh? Grandpa, father. Good brother. After hearing this, Su Qianqian and Su Shenbing gasped for air, obviously very angry. It turns out that Su Xiantian is Su Yang. Su Yang spread his hands and said helplessly, I was really forced, you have to believe me. The Su family is in danger. In order to deal with the smiling Buddha, I used my identity as Su Xiantian to kill him. Su Xiantian, is it Su Yang? But soon, the two of them calmed down, and their faces remained calm, as if they had forgotten the matter. Let's make a sworn vows. I wanted to make a sworn vows quickly and then leave, but... Su Yang explained, but I never expected that Grandpa would ask me to make a sworn vows. I refused decisively, but Grandpa still didn't agree and insisted on sworn vows. Depend on. Dad, although you have become disabled and can't move, you can still scold me a few words. Don't hold it in your heart. It will hurt you. Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose awkwardly. After logging into Su Suanation's account, he looked at his father and grandfather, slightly at a loss. The person who said this quintessence of Chinese culture was not Su Shenbing, but Su Qinqin. Su Yang continued, but who would have thought that Grandpa insisted on eating and called Dad over. Grandpa, Dad. Later I found out that Grandpa wanted to use the energy stone to repay Su Xiantian, and he was already waiting at the Jimen black market. I needed the energy stone, so I went there, planning to take the energy stone and leave. Seeing this, Su Yang paused for a moment, then said in surprise, "What's wrong with you guys? Please give me some reaction." Ahem. Just now, they were so excited when they suddenly saw Su Xiantian that they ignored some things. Since becoming a grandfather, Su Qinqin has given up such words and has not spoken them for more than 20 years. Today he made an exception, which shows how miserable he feels at this time. Dad, Grandpa. As for Su Shenbing, he glanced at his father complainingly, as if blaming his father. Upon hearing this, Su Qinqin and Su Shenbing reacted immediately, their faces darkened, and their expressions were extremely complicated. Su Qinqin was also very excited and said with a smile, "Ha ha ha, dear brother, I haven't seen you for a few days. I miss you so much. What have you been busy with in the past few days?" "What?